Hello everybody, welcome back to the Andy Rogers podcast. Tonight I've got two guests. I've got my friend Paul Craig, who most people have seen on my football podcast. Owe him a place on this podcast, which is the reason it's back together. And our guest tonight's ex-Livingston keeper and current Kelty goalkeeper, Darren Jamieson. How you doing, mate?
I'm alright, how are you?
Good, man. Good. Been buzzing for this all day, to be honest.
It's been a while, actually. It's quite late.
It's kind of 8:05. I was like, right, get everybody sorted for work and all that, and then we'll get something done.
Aye. I've not done anything today anyway. Just worked.
Aye.
Never had anything today.
Right, kicking off, DJ. You come from Livingston yourself. Went to school and that, and I seen you started off at Rangers.
Well, just before Rangers, it was Muirston. So the boys' club up there, there's nothing in it, to be honest. My mum took me down to one of those kind of trial days things. You just basically get to kick a ball, but that's it. And then they took me in for there. But that all spiralled quite quickly because the team we had at Muirston was unbelievable. Like, I promised myself I wouldn't start name dropping everybody that I knew.
No,
so I've not got to start. Not got to start name dropping absolutely everybody, but. No, the team that we had, there was 7 years went to Rangers. And I think we ended up playing them in a game once. We beat them 3-2. And 7 years ended up going as well. I think it was actually more on trial, but 7 years that managed to make it. But just before, and then Rangers was brilliant. The setup, you can imagine what it's like. Everybody will tell you it's great. But for one reason or another, it just doesn't work out. But the boy that released me said I wasn't tall enough. Which is frustrating now, do you know what I mean? See, when you hear about things like now, you're like, come on. But, aye. So, what was I then? 12, I wasn't tall enough. By 14, I was nearly in at Livingston, basically. It's crazy how it works, like.
I'll let you go for here, Paul.
Aye. So, something in the back of my mind from our chats in college, don't know if you're aware, Andy, but me and Dee used to kind of share a classroom together every Wednesday, was it, in college?
Wednesdays, aye.
When you guys used to come up.
3 years or something as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
For ages.
The infamous open goals, Andy Halliday.
Oh, my God,
the presence. And Jacobs brothers, of course. But, aye, so was it West Calder High you went to?
Yeah, West Calder High. I've seen it built a new one now, actually.
Aye. New school, man, new school.
That always happens, doesn't it? As soon as you leave, brand new stuff comes out.
Exactly happened with Harry's Muir and Vernon myself. But the question I was going to ask, have you ever ventured back into the school just to give a talk or any coaching sessions or anything like that at all?
I thought that wasn't really part of the school, but we went to me and Camphor Dice done it. It's like a presentation thing. Mm-hmm. Just back in the old assembly hall. It's quite see when you're taller and it looks smaller, it's weird. Don't know if that makes sense at all, but like, walking back in, you're just like, it looks a wee bit smaller than it used to, but I've only ever done it once just to see. I've had a wee walk about the school and stuff like that. It was just the same, but now that I know that they've knocked it down and it's Susie, so I'll buy a house there actually. At least I can getting the surroundings at least.
With the staff, the same, or had they drastically changed, or any teachers that you had?
No, there was a few. Do you know what it was? Do you remember we done the Jack Truman charity football thing as well? Mm-hmm. So obviously there's a lot of ex-teachers, and they were obviously he went to West Calder as well. So there's a lot of ex-teachers there. And when we got into the changing room, I came in at the same time. Me and Dicey both came in, and you just seen everyone's heads just turning. And you're like don't have to remember us, and every single one of them was like so welcome, and I just like, he's done amazing, blah blah blah. So it was good. It's good to see old faces and that as well.
Definitely good stuff, man.
No, definitely. Who was at Rangers at the time, and then obviously you went to Livy.
Boys at Rangers, John Flex, obviously the biggest. He was playing years above his though. He was.
You've heard that.
He was out of this world when you look at the physicality when he was 14, the ability that he had, and the running power that he had. You could tell he was going to make it. Do you know what I mean? Surprising him, I made it at Rangers, but when you see him now, it's like Sheffield United and that Scotland and whatever, you see the talent that he did when he was 14. But I mean, a lot of the boys that were there, boys that were in my youth side at Muristeds, you're like say Danny Wilson, who's obviously went on and done really well in his career too. Nicky Clark, Rhys McCabe. There's so many names that have all done really well. And obviously there was 4 years. So the triplets all came. Keith was already at Livingston. Andy's Hallidays came to Livingston as well. So there was quite a few years that ended up just all moving on to Livingston after that as well.
Some characters there anyway. You see like Andy Halliday on open goal now. I think was he funny back then as he is now? Because I find him hilarious.
Do you know what? He's now slightly more mature. If you need to understand what I mean. It's like for him to when he was 14. When he was 14 years old, he was just nuts, but funny at the same time. Do you know what I mean? It's just all the Glaswegian people that seem to travel in together. They all just seem to have a connection. They're just as funny as each other. Do you know what I mean? There was a connection of 5 or 6 of them that used to come in cars and that all the time. Like when they're late and they're all sprinting through the door and all making excuses. And brilliant. They're all really good. But Andy was top man.
You're studying that in Griff.
They were in the first team. So when I first signed in at Livingston, I was obviously only 16. That first year for me, to be perfectly honest, probably couldn't have went any better. Came in at 16, ended up getting a couple of starts in like the youth team, and then played my first team debut at the end of the season as well. So I mean, all in all, you need to say it's quite a successful start, basically.
Clean sheet on your debut, I think I've seen.
Clean sheet on your debut. Albion Rovers, that was the end of the season, But that was obviously the fiasco with, well, Paul
the Italian boy
should not be named.
We're not going to say his name anyway. I must admit, I didn't like him either, did not like the guy. He just so many promises and nothing ever came of it, basically. That was the worst time, basically, in the whole of Livingston when I was there.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard all the stories from other people, such as James McPake, and of course Robert Snodgrass.
Andy Halliday and that.
Yeah. Did they ever give you any promises face to face? Like, did they approach you or any staff and say?
I mean, no, individually, no. But like a lot of them will say. Obviously, I've heard James McPake saying in his interviews and that and open goal and stuff, just how like mad he was. But the way that you need to try and imagine him is he's so cocky. He's such a presence of a guy, a big guy, a tall guy. He was always in. He came in one day with a marker in his hand. So obviously we had a marker in the changing room, and he's wrote on it, "Players will be paid 10th of November, whatever date it was, and then signed it underneath. So we'd left this up, right? All the boys have got photos of it, everything. Came to the 10th, he came in the next again day, rubbed out the 10. 11. You're like, come on. I mean, but then at the time, like now looking back, you're like, it's funny because we've all got through it. But see, at the time, there's so many boys that were raging, so angry. But I mean, you can tell because you're trying to pay your mortgage and that. They've probably phoned up their bank and says we're definitely getting paid in the 10th. And then maybe had to phone the bank up again and be like, look, we're definitely getting paid in the 11th. Do you know what I mean? You can see why.
Everyone's dyslexic, mate, let it go.
You're at the wrong date then, sorry about that. But now looking back on it, you can laugh now, but at the time, like, no.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, I was still young, I was still really young. I wasn't on much money at all. Still staying with my mum. I think I still even had my weekly, you get a weekly ticket for the buses. Do you know what I mean? My mum was paying it for me. I never had to necessarily worry about money. But these boys, they must have been harder, a lot harder for them.
Yeah.
You've heard stories of what went on at Hearts with Romanov and...
That'd be the same.
It'd be the exact same as just when we're getting paid and all that. And
it was, and like I say, you're making a laugh and a joke about it now, but there's even a game, I'm still really, really young at this point, by the way, but so the assistant manager came in to me at the time and says, right, this is a game for you. We're playing against Celtic in a friendly. You maybe remember that, Paul, actually. It was remember the big Polish boy, big tall Polish goalkeeper that came in?
Oh, Mario.
Aye. So
Marios!
So there was two of them because it was the other wee French boy that came in, Pierre Martini. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah, I remember.
Right, so their debuts was that game, that friendly game, right? Now, at the start of that game, the very start of that game, I was starting. So I was supposed to start the game. So I ended up giving me the number 1, all right, I'm ready to stick the shots and whatever on. Just like, I was nervous, obviously. I mean, I'm about to start a first team game like everybody else. And he comes in and he goes, I'm sure it was Pierre that came in first.
Yeah.
I can't remember, anyway, whatever one it was, one of them anyway. And he came in and he says, right, this is Pierre. Pierre's going to go on trial. So he's going to start the game, but you're definitely going to play the second half. And I was like, right, fair enough. So I've taken my number 1 back off again. I'm waiting to sit over at number 12 or 13 or whatever number that is. And about 4 minutes after that, he brings this big silly Polish dafty in, and he's like, right, Big Mario's going to play the second half. You sit in the stand for this game, but you're really important for the squad. I was like, right, aye, cheers. And that was at 17, and that was like the first 2-3 months or whatever of the season. You're like, nah, this is something's going on here.
No,
Andy, in case you're unaware about Mario Laberda, I can't remember much of Martini apart from the guy loved his hair, the jet black hair, and he was going back like Italian Mafia Don. That's all I remember.
See, as far as a goalkeeper, the biggest shite bag he'll
not coming for crosses or nothing.
No, he'd come out for everything. He'd come out for everything, but never near in.
And he fought in his ankle hurts. He used to do it in training as well. He used to come running out, try to take crosses and that, and if he missed it, he'd fall down and be like, my ankle's sore, and you're like, get up, you're big nasty.
He used to just scream, like, you know yourself, obviously, DJ being obviously a goalkeeper. The first thing you're taught as a goalkeeper is command your box vocally at first. Make yourself heard. He ticked like 4 or 5 ticks in that box.
You could hear him.
Folk could hear him in the shopping centre. Like,
you could hear him. You could definitely see him.
Service. Like, generally, it was that fucking loud, man.
It was a foghorn, like, he was very loud. But that was about as far as it got after that.
How was it like going to your debut? What was it like, getting the chat and then realise you're starting? What's your head like?
Well, we'd already won the league. So, like, leading up to that, so there was... I'm going to say it was a quarter-final. I'm not entirely sure. It was a quarter-final of the Youth Cup against Aberdeen. Played them up in Pataudry. And it shows you the calibre of player that they had. So they played Bayern Munich on the Thursday night. I don't know if you remember that. They played Bayern Munich, remember? So they played Bayern Munich on the Thursday night. The boy Chris Maguire, Sonny Luco both played in that game. Starred in the game as well, by the way. Done really well with both of them. And on the Sunday, the two of them were on the fucking bench for the under-19s. They were young enough to be playing in under-19s, but the two of them were there just in case they needed them to come on the pitch, yeah?
That's ridiculous.
And it's just... But that was youth under-19s at that point, and I'm like, right, I'll probably not play this game, but I was enjoying my time and whatever. And I go up to this game, and they read the team out, and the first thing they said is obviously, like, DJ, you're starting. And I was like, I'm 17, like, this is under-19s, like, I don't know if I'm ready to play in this game. Like, I'm not really entirely sure if I should even be up here in this squad, never mind playing the game. I'm ready to start, like, oh my God. So that warm-up, I wish it was recorded, because if you'd have seen it, mate, honestly, you wouldn't have played me. It was the worst warm-up I've ever had in my life. Couldn't catch it in. The ball, I think the ball hit me in the nose a couple of times. Like, it's just a disaster, man. But that was the most nervous I've ever been before a game. So that was about maybe January time. So when it came to April, May, whenever it was, the end of the season, like, the boys had already won the league. The manager, Gary Bowen at the time, he says to me, like, look, just go, relax, like, play your own game, did anything silly, like, then he'd try and take the strikers on or anything like that. And I'm like, aye, fine, right. So when I got into that game, I felt like I was, and I got an early save, actually. I got a save quite early on in the game.
Got to be important for a keeper.
Aye, so it was, like, as far as nerves goes, I was a wee bit nervous, but at the same time, I was quite content about playing in that one. But that Aberdeen game, oh my God.
You know what Chris Maguire done last night?
What?
So he got released off Sunderland in the summer there, and he's playing for Lincoln. He scored a hat-trick for Lincoln last night.
Did he?
Oh,
and he ran right up to Lee Johnson and basically went like that. right in the front of the technical area.
I've seen the photo in the Metro, actually, this morning.
And you look at what careers they've went on and had, like, Lucas at Rangers and that, and that's mad.
Aye, exactly.
Play on the Thursday and they're sitting on the bench.
And what happened then was we were 2-1 up with maybe 15 minutes to go, and you see them coming on the pitch, yeah, and you're like one, they're panicking because they're now bringing 2 players on that were first team players. But 2, like, we're about to get an absolute scud in here. I think they beat us an extra time 3-2 to bastards. But anyway.
I was just about to ask, was that the same season you went to the final against Celtic at Celtic Park?
No. So that was the season before. The season after, because that was the season that I played. That was good. That was fun. That I really enjoyed that. Yeah. Playing in the 19s that whole entire season was just like, it's like playing with your mates, but at the same time, like, we were that good a team, eh?
Who's in that 19s? DJ?
Is that like Joe McKee and all that?
I could try and name the starting 11, but I could as well. So it was me, Dev, Dev Jacobs, Neil Hastings, Neil McCabe. So Neil McCabe made his debut that year as well, actually. Sheldon played left back. Go out in the middle of the park, wee boy Dean Cummins. So that's Jason Cummins'
Jason's
brother. He's in Australia now, mate. And honestly, he's one of the guys that, like, pretty similar to his brother, actually, to be honest. Like, you wished the best for him, eh? But he was a nut job. He was a nut job.
Jason's a nut job, too.
Such a good guy, man, honestly. Scoogs played. Joe McKee played. Sparky. So Mark McNulty played as well. And Andy Halliday played on the left.
That's an 11, by the way.
Aye. We had
Google, man. Oh, my God.
Just the interest, how tall was Scoogs at this point?
Same height as yours now.
Same height.
Doesn't change much, anyway.
He was just...
Oh, man. See, technically, I thought he was unbelievable. Eh?
He's electric. So, do you know what? It was the biggest one for me was taking it on the half turn and then turning and going. Yeah. See, I've never seen anyone do anything like that in my life.
As a supporter, even though I was young, like him always just wanting to demand them all. Whether it be on the wing, in the middle of the park.
As long as he had the ball at his feet.
Regardless, he just wanted that ball.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
No, he was something else. Like, he was good at youth level, and you can tell, obviously. He went on and played at Wembley and stuff like that with Sheffield United. You know what I mean? Like,
scored.
And scored. So that's
albeit in the opposite side, but he still scored. I mean, I still remember getting absolutely off my dinger jumping in my kitchen table and that. Just to show about a few tenants this day.
That's true.
Is that Sheffield United playoff final? Or is it
against Hull?
I think I know what they're playing. Was it the FA Cup maybe?
FA Cup versus Hull.
Hull, aye.
And ironically, I'm pretty sure Sonny Aluko.
Was that Hull at the time?
I'm pretty sure he played.
Sonny Aluko was at Hull.
Oh, did he? Oh, there you go.
I think so. Could be wrong.
That's mental. Just the players that you've came through with, DJ, that's mental. Like, they've gone, the careers some of them have went on to have. Obviously.
I think you need to look at the team scouts at that time. I think, anyway. I mean, I didn't necessarily... I know a lot of them now, but however they work it, however they manage to piece that sort of 11 together, they've done really, really well. And when you look at it as well, in that season, probably about 3 or 4 months in was when Lee Griffiths came into our squad as well. And I mean, like, honestly, like, that guy scored. He scored about 107 goals for the 19s, like, and he hardly played for us too. Do you know what I mean? It was just that he was that good. He scored the quickest goal I've ever seen. So his kick-off. And I remember Graham Robertson, who was the head of youth at the time, shouting to Griffiths, just saying to him, like, Sparky, like, look at the goalie. And the goalie's standing on the 18-yard line. So he's literally, the ball's just been knocked that 1 yard back and he's pinged it. We're 1-0 up after 4 seconds. Like, genuinely the quickest goal you'll ever see.
Ridiculous technique on him, eh?
It's just mental. What a player he was as well. So good. Hard to play with in training, but at the same time, you were like, you wanted him to be shooting into you so that you could learn off him, basically. You know what I mean?
Take the best of him so you can learn yourself.
Aye, definitely, aye.
So is Gary Boland the manager that made you number one at Livy?
No, so he just left. Did he maybe go? I'm trying to think now. So he gave my debut. Definitely gave my debut. The season after was League. So that's just when we went down the leagues. Obviously, I played Division 2 at the time. Division 1, I then played against Alloa in the second season. We won 3-1. And then the next again season, we went up to the Championship. But I never played that season. I was on the bench with Andy McNeil that played.
Yeah.
But I think he got replaced.
He's another madman too, I've heard.
By the way, you'll never meet a better goalie than him, I think. Like, just everything. Just, I got on with him so well. Like, once he left Livy, I still go for dinner for him. He's in China now, so I do it now. But I'd love to go over to China and see what he does over there. And just, great guy. Always kept in touch with him too. Really, really good. Always had everybody else's intentions first before his. You know what I mean? Going to training, he'd be like, right, Deej, what do you want to improve on? And if he was good, like his kicking, for example, was, well, he'll probably tell you so, it was never the best. He had to always improve it. Whereas it just came kind of natural to me. I don't know why. I just prefer kicking the ball than catching it for some reason. But going out on a Thursday with him, we used to do it every afternoon. Two mannequins, one at one side of the box, one at the other side of the box. Take the touch, ping it. And he used to say that to me, don't get frustrated at me because I'm trying to learn for what you're doing. And it gives you a wee boost. You know, I'm only 18, 19 at the time even, and I'm like, do you know what? Like, this is good. The first team goalie and that still trying to help me out and stuff. Like, this is class. So it was really, really good with Andy. I really liked it with Andy. He was the best one for me. But that was... So Gary Bowen gave me my debuts and stuff, and then John Hughes came in with Collins. But John Hughes ends up leaving. He went to Hartlepool. Yep. So that was the year. That year, I was like, he kept telling me, him and John Collins, to be fair to them, both of them, like, you're so close to the first team. You're really, really close to the first team. Just keep going, keep doing the things you're doing. Like, I was playing in reserves. I remember playing a reserve game at East Fife, and I think we won the game like 3 or 4-0 or something like that. And they came in after the game, and nobody else got the praise or anything like that, which, like, individual praise. And this time he came in and he just pointed to me and he went, in that whole entire game, how many times did you give the ball away? And I went, well, I was like, I don't know, what did I do? Like, I'm thinking like we've won the game, so I'm like, it's not going to be too bad. And he's turned this notepad around me, 52nd and 73rd or something he had on this pad. And he's like, you gave the ball away twice in that game. He's like, that's no fucking good enough for a man of the match performance like that. And I went, can I just look at it? I was like, what? No.
You're always obsessed with that stuff.
He's then says to me then, though, he says, see, if you'd only give the ball away once, you'd be playing on Saturday. I was just sitting there and I'm like, oh, fuck, like, damn it. Like, the twice I've kicked it in the pitch as well, it's just probably laziness. Like, just wanting to kick the ball and just end up missing or something like that. And it was like, that's how close you are to playing in the first team. So obviously that gave me a massive, massive help. But he left for Hartlepool that season, and Richie Buck came in.
Yep.
Now that was kind of the start for me, basically. As soon as Richie Buck came in for me, because he got told he never had a budget, he got told all the players that are on X amount or more are getting released. So, and obviously Andy McNeil left. So as soon as Andy left, he said, like, look, I've spoke to the manager and his intentions is to play you for next season. And that's basically how it started.
That's going to be a massive, like, when Andy McNeil has played at Hibs and all that and kind of helped yourself and even said to the manager, listen, I've said this to the manager. That's going to just make you feel
that's
top banana.
The friendship point, for a friendship point of view, but also a professional point of view as well. Do you know what I mean? If he's saying things like that, and then he told me as well, he did actually tell me the same. He's obviously said to me, like, look, like, we've recommended that you play for next season.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Because, like, see, with keepers, obviously, you're just fighting for the one position. It's easy to be selfish there, eh?
Oh,
like,
definitely.
It could be so easy to be selfish. Don't want to help them. No.
You meet a lot of people. Do you know what? It'd be, it's probably bad on my part, I would say. Until this year, I've always been the younger goalie. No matter where I've been, I've always been the younger goalie. So when I'm looking at myself being a younger goalie, I'm always like, I want to beat him. I want him. But see, now I've got, so the young boy that's at Kelty with me now is Josh Donaldson. And see, because I've now got a younger goalie, he's only 21. I've tried to give him as much, I don't know if it's classed as advice, I don't know if he could listen to it, I know if he wants to, he can, but I'll give him as much advice and stuff like that as he wants or as much as he needs, basically. So I can see where Andy was coming from when he was with me, trying to give me more advice and just try to help me out and stuff like that. Not wanting me to take his position, but still want him to do good things in the game. Do you know what I mean?
100%. He must have had it at Hibs as well, because I think he was below like Simon Brown and that.
He would have
His
done
time
that.
at Hibs, so probably just learned that and thought, they guys were great to me, I'm going to do the exact same thing.
Aye. And I'm glad, I'm thankful for the fact that he did do that, to be fair.
No, definitely. So you end up number one. How is it, you're going into that season, you've got to be number one. How are you feeling about everything? Is it just buzzing for it? Just shiting yourself?
Nah, I'm not shiting myself at this point. Nah. It's not like that anymore, I think. So I played 3 games before my number one season type thing. And the first team. And at that point, you're like, right, you've played 3 games, you came out of like you'll be fine. And then I would probably say this first 5 games of that season was an absolute disaster for me. But Paul, he'll probably tell you, he's probably shouting at me. That's why he's laughing because I can't. It's true. No, that's all. The first 5 games, I'm not saying, like, I wouldn't have said, I'll be biased and probably say, I didn't think I was that bad. No. In the first 5 games of that season, I was shite, to be perfectly honest with you.
If I recall correctly, though, I'm pretty sure the whole team was.
Well, aye. No,
again,
I mean, aye, fair enough. But
hound that because obviously the situation.
Do you know what, Paul? Genuinely, like, I think if you've got a good base, as in the goalie's commanding, the goalie's doing things right, then it starts for there and builds up. But I was shite. But I'm just going to say that it was me. I was rubbish, right? Richie then gets sacked.
Yeah.
And the last game, so the 6th game, he played Kev Walker. So I was second choice at this point. I was like, I'm second choice, but I mean, it's my fault because I've not performed well in the last 5 games. And then John McGlynn came in.
Aye.
John McGlynn comes in, and basically, for that point onward, Kev played in the cow and beef game the next game week. I don't know why I remember it being cow and beef. I just do for some reason. And John McGlynn pulled me in on the Monday morning and sat me down basically, and he says to me like, "Why are you not my first choice keeper?" And I looked at him, aye, basically. But do you know, I just looked at him, I was kind of thinking to myself like, I think I might say, yeah, why am I not first choice? I'm like, I was just sitting there like waiting for him to tell me basically, and we sat there for a good. Well, it felt like about 3 hours, but it was probably like 2 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? Before he then says to me, I can see the ability that you've got. I can see the potential you've got, blah, blah, blah. Like, you need to be working as hard as you possibly can because I think you're potentially better than what Kev's doing right now. I think you could be playing in my team. And as soon as he said that, I went out and I don't know why. You just sometimes turn into a bit of an animal. Like, you just want to be up the best. And for that point onwards, I think John McGlynn played me for the whole 18 months that he was there. Every single game I played. I think it was just one of the talks where you just like, you need to be on the ball now. Do you know what I mean? Like, this guy's expecting me to be number one. So I need to
I will be that number one.
Aye, basically.
I was at Paul, what was the game I went to Uwe? It was under McGlynn. It's about my 21st, so it's 7 years ago. 1-0 against Cowdenbeath.
I've got a feeling it was Cowdenbeath because that season.
I know it was Cowdenbeath.
My memory's so bad nowadays. Trying to remember all these games and names.
I haven't been able to tell you that way, sir.
And I remember I was sort of sitting with all like Paul's lot. And
Paul's lot.
The formerly known DBM. Yeah.
The DBM, I was going to say that as well.
Still get your scarf?
Probably somewhere, right?
And I just remember sitting there going, he's a fucking cracking keeper. You were in net, DJ. I was just thought, they weren't getting past you, but
I thought, from my point of view, my whole time, if I was to say, like at Livy, like being part of the fans first. Like, I used to be a season ticket holder. I was never a Livingston supporter as such, but I was a season ticket holder, and I went every week, and I was just one of them. It was like, it was down the road for me. It was convenient for me to be there, and just used to be like Eugene Daddy's the main man at one point. I remember an overhead kick against Aberdeen, hit the crossbar, and we were on the crowd like absolutely getting it. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So for going for being in the stand to on the pitch is good, but knowing the people that were in the crowd is even better. You know what I mean? I could start name dropping all the fans and stuff like that as well. That I know everybody in the crowd and all that. But when we'd score a goal, the first thing I would do is turn and run towards the fans. But it wasn't. I wasn't like, oh, look at me celebrating, look at me, I'm amazing. I was always turning. I'd find someone in the crowd that I knew. I'd be like, yes, we've just scored, and like. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was always more like I was celebrating with the people that are like my pals. And that's what kind of obviously comes to being a fan favourite, as I get told all the time. Like, it was
folk I've spoke to you. You're one of their favourite players, eh?
Aye, and it was always a nice touch as well. And the accolades and the awards and stuff like that you get at the end of it as well. It's nice. Do you know what I mean? It's nice to get it all. Anybody tells you that it's no, and they're lying to you, basically.
Aye, that's one thing I will say about Livy. Obviously, I can't really judge anybody else's club for the end of year parties and stuff like that, but the end of year parties for Livy were pretty damn good, especially the season where we won the Challenge Cup.
Aye.
And of course, you played a massive part in that, getting us through that semi-final against Stranraer.
Oh, but what a night that was.
That same club eventually hammered us and sent us down. But, aye, not a great time to be a Livy fan at that point, but... no, that challenge, that day out in Perth was amazing. Like, I
think it was geared up.
It was a day out anyway.
Oh, do you know what I was? So from a player's point of view, obviously we got through the tie, Stranraer. Like, I played well, and I actually played well in the game, but I made the mistake for the goal. I don't know if you remember the goal. Do you remember that? Because it was early on in the game anyway, but it was just like I just remember making the mistake for the goal. I think to myself like shit, I've done that, and it's on BBC Alba and that as well. And you're like, oh, but we end up equalising. Once we equalised, from then on, I felt like I didn't feel under pressure at any point in that game. And I mean, we went into extra time, all the way through extra time and that as well. I was like, we're no under any pressure here. And then when it goes to penalties, all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, like it's actual penalties. Like it's just a 50-50 now to get into the final. But aye, that's one, and I see like every time it comes up on my Facebook, I retweet it, I share it, I put it on my Twitter. Do you know what I mean? Like that'll be a defining moment in my career if anyone ever asks. Definitely,
100%.
You know what I mean?
Well, that takes one of the questions away for later, Paul.
Yep. What do you remember for when the moment that your glove makes contact with that ball to then put us into the final? What do you remember, except from maybe a couple of hundred bodies heading towards you?
Well, you know what it was? So, obviously, it being a night game, when you're full-time, obviously like part-time, you work. When you're full-time, you basically get to rest the full day. So we've just been told you didn't need to arrive till 4:30 for your pre-match, whatever. So the full day, and this is around about November time, I sat in, and it's kind of, you're in that sort of, well, I am anyway, I don't know if anyone else is, and you get FIFA, and come November, you're like, right, I'm really good at this game now, and I just love playing it, and I want to play it all the time. Well, I was playing it that morning, my brother, and it was, I don't know why, but for some reason we ended up just playing it, and see the celebration that I done. So it's like the brick fall, I think it's called. If you do it on the name of it on FIFA. Aye. And I kept doing it to my brother just to wind him up, because he hated that the wee guy was like jumping and falling down.
Aye, the salmon. So, the salmon.
Aye, it was whatever it was. But I'm sure it was called the brick fall in FIFA though. That's what I mean. But the salmon was what it was. Aye, I'm sure that's what it was called. But anyway, we were playing. And my brother says to me, like, "Hey, see when you save a penalty tonight, like you do that once you save the winning penalty." And I went, "It's not got a penalties, mate. We've got to win this. It'd be brilliant." And I don't know why, but when it quoted it, that was the fifth penalty. And for some reason, I had it in my mind. I knew exactly where I was going. I didn't know if he was going there, but I knew exactly where I was going the whole time. I'm like, I'm diving at my left, and I'm basically spinning, and I'm just going to run towards my brother in the crowd, and then I'm going to. I was like, I just set my head. And it literally happened exactly how I thought it would do. He whipped it like the same way. It didn't go right in the corner. That actually goes in. I've still got the picture on my computer.
Yeah.
My hand gets there and I spin. And as soon as I spin, I see my brother in the crowd. Yeah. But when I seen him, and then I looked to my left and I seen the players coming down. When I see all the players coming, I thought, oh my God, they're going to hound me here. But then when I turned back, everybody for the crowd as well was then running towards me doing. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
George Hine turned into Usain Bolt.
I don't know. I was like, oh my God, I don't know. But I thought, if I stand up here, somebody's going to drag me down. So just do it. So I just jumped. And that, like, whoever it is that took the photos, it's an absolute brilliant photo, by the way.
It'll be Ray Irvin, if I'm right in saying.
But whoever it was, it's amazing. Amazing photo. So I've obviously jumped up, done the salmon, fall, whatever you call it, landed on the ground, and as soon as I land...
You done the DJ.
As soon as I land, I was on my back to start with, and Miles Hippolyte, like, I'm glad he did now, but Miles Hippolyte flips me over onto my front.
Aye.
And because he's like lying on top of me, and as he's lying on top of me, he's basically taking the whole strain of like four. If we're going in, we'll not exaggerate, we'll try and be specific. There was at least 50 people. At least 50 people on top of me. But nah.
Easy.
Maybe. In my later days, I made part of that.
And I remember that. See for that celebration, just quickly, I remember. So as I looked up, I was on the bottom, but as I looked up on the grass, some guy was knee sliding into me, and and his like knees were like that, like just like coming right by my head, so it just stopped like right at the top. I'm like, Do
you want to know the worst thing is? I generally think that's Greggy Mack. I think it's Greggy McFarlane.
I've not got a clue. It was.
I'm pretty sure it's Greggy McFarlane.
It was amazing. And then obviously getting up after that, you just
elation, man.
Oh, it's so good, so good.
So surely there's a night out after that, DJ. There's got to be after the penalties and that. Or just have a game
Tuesday night and a Wednesday night. So
I think it was a Tuesday night. No, but
I think we went to Spoons. I think there was a vast majority of us went to Spoons for like 2 pints.
I don't think we went out though. I don't think we went out because it was a semi-final as well though. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily it is a big king. It is a big king, but at the same time you're like, look, you've got the final to go. Aye. And that was basically the start of the Great Escape, they called it, didn't they?
Aye.
Oh, you swung.
That was pretty much where it started. Aye. So obviously we had the minus points deduction for the start of the season.
Yeah.
And I think what did we win? Like 6 games or something the whole year.
I can't remember the exact figure, but
we won like 4. But we won like 4 in the last like 2 months of the season.
Aye, and then
that was like one team beat us or something. The whole 8 games or something like that. It was madness.
I'm hesitant to say it was Hibs that beat us.
Probably.
I think it was maybe Hibs. Was that the
I can't even
was that
remember.
The 4-0 we beat? Was that the 4-0 we beat us?
Could potentially be at the Vale,
aye. Because I got in trouble at work because I wasn't meant to be at the game. I was meant to be at work. But my boiler went in the house. So my boiler went in Malthus and Howden. I think I'd like text my mates over the game. I went, "Is there spare tickets?" Aye. There's me right in the middle. BBC Alba. Danny Handlin scored. And there's me.
I remember that. That's a great goal. I remember that.
Danny Handlin's goal, aye.
I stood still. I actually thought to myself, he's going to hit this right at me. And he just slots it right in the corner. And I just like,
there's me right in the middle of the thing. Got a text from my boss. I was like, I'll bring the boiler sheet in the morning. Don't worry about it. I was like, I am going to be fine with this.
Class.
And the one thing I do remember
was literally Great Escape that year.
Yeah, the Great Escape, the game at Cowdenbeath. No disrespect from, I know they've been about for years and quite an elderly football club with a stock car racing track around the pitch. That stadium is a danger. Like literally, we were in the seats where it's like wood.
Aye.
And actually, of all people, had Nicky Gallagher not heavily pregnant, but fairly pregnant with Declan Gallagher's child, of course.
The first one, aye.
And when Jordan White scores that to put us 2-1 up, obviously we're well oiled. And Decky's dad, Nicky, and I don't know who else is with him, is right behind me. Geordie, you know Geordie, man, excitable, mental case. We go flying up in the air, pies, drinks, things you shouldn't have in stands. Everything goes in the air. And I fall back and I actually bump into Nicky. So it went from like elation to like, fuck.
Are you okay?
It's like first aid, like, are you alright? Are you alright? And then it goes from first aid to, fuck, Mr. Gallagher here's me, they might have. But no, everything was all good. She was fine. She was happy to, Dickie's still going to be a championship club at this point. So
That was good though.
Aye,
The whole celebration at that point as well. I think when he scores every single one of us was just like it's on. Like this is on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like we're kind of we're doing well here, basically.
Mm-hmm. Alloa went down in your place, eh? Is it Alloa that went down? Was it County?
Aye, but playoffs though. We skipped back up above the playoff at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the playoff was Alloa against Forfar, and then Alloa won the playoff, didn't they? So they stayed up. But I was just good not to be involved in that or get relegated at the time.
Exactly.
And then sort of fast forward that sort of season, he's playing Perth, he's won the Challenge Cup 4-0, absolutely scalped Alloa.
That was, do you know what I think that was? That's probably, that sounds really bad actually, if you maybe say that, but I'll say it anyway. Like, see, when we went into that game, we had a big win bonus to win the game, and you could tell. Like, you could tell. Do you know what I mean? See, when you get something like that, an incentive, like, you've got money behind you if you win this game. And then Alloa's, we've obviously found out Alloa's win bonus was like significantly lower than us, but it was just the same as any other win for them. And I feel like you could probably tell, like, straight for the start, hit like Miles for the first goal. Miles Hippolyte for the first goal was like sprinting away up the top to get the ball and kicks it away down the line again, and then he plays it back to Pitts and Pitts finishes it, and you're like,
Pitts had a nosebleed, wiped it up in milliseconds and sorted it away.
Pretty much, aye. But if it's just one of them, no way, like, you could just tell, just wanted it. Like, even Dicey's going for the corner as well. It's dropped.
Yep.
But it just drops.
Smashes at home.
It just drops for the right person at that time. Do you know what I mean? It just happened for us. That whole day was just, it was amazing to be a part of, to be fair.
That after party was absolutely mental. I actually went to the after party. It was fucking mental.
Well, he says to us, so see, when we played, was that this Sunday?
Aye,
it was a Sunday, mate. Aye.
So that was a Sunday. So that was a Sunday. We got into the changing room, and it was Butchie at the time. He was like, "Look, this is just the start. Like, he said, we're going to stay up now as well, like everything." So nobody goes out the night. We're back in training tomorrow morning, and every single one of us went, "What? Surely no! Like, it was just what I got.
Vampire effect, fucking brain.
Do you know what I mean? Like, Butchie, man. But then, so obviously, I think we went back to the local, like, Pole Beth, away up. Me and Dicey went back, had a couple of drinks, but never did anything, obviously. We couldn't even. More like a celebration and just seeing everyone at the ground, and then back came straight away into training the next again day. But the annoying part of the training the next again day is that we went up to that Houston house up in Brooksburn and played fucking water polo, fucking volleyball in the pool and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Nothing.
Just like he's going to get steaming.
I would rather been out. But anyway, I suppose it worked out well in the end. You know what I mean? It was if you look at it now in hindsight, I mean, it's the right decision for it to bring us in straight away on the Monday. Like, it did bring us all in 9 o'clock on Monday morning. Aye, and that's basically what it was like, because we were all like that. Like, fuck's sake, man, we just won 4-0 yesterday in the Challenge Cup final. The first time the club's won a cup in years, and we are
new
here.
Won the Challenge Cup as Livingston as well.
First time they'd ever won it as well, and we're sitting here.
4 attempts,
and we're sitting here on Monday morning, ready to go again. Like, here's a day off, Butchie, man. Fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? It was like that. That was what kept us feet on the ground, and we just kicked on for that point. That was.
Aye, for obvious reasons, I won't name names, but the highlight, or I would say the aftermath highlight of that final was watching the footage back on Alba. My mum had recorded it on the telly for us, so watched it back, full game, fast forwarded to the good bits, of course. And I think it's the third goal. I think it's Jordan White. I think it scores the third, I remember rightly, and the camera zooms in on the crowd. I won't name names, but in clean plain sight, there's a boy standing with a bottle of Jägermeister and a plastic cup in another section. I know this boy well, but it's generally the most latent,
so
obvious viewing of
a
Jägermeister. It could well be a Jägermeister advert. Like, literally, it's like, there's my bottle, there's my cup, there we are. Absolutely exceptional.
That's good. Like, love that. I got a good cover photo that day. Actually, that must have been that way of again.
I remember shouting you over. Me, Colin,
it's an absolute peach. I had a few of them as well, but it's like I say, it was a lot of my friends that were there as well. And I didn't just mean like, not just necessarily people that I'd met through Livingston. It was like people I'd went to school with, like Ross Cooks and his brother and stuff. Mark Mickelson. That's exactly what I was going to say. All the different boys that were there all went to my school. They all spoke to me well before I'd been playing for Livingston. They were all right down the very front, all along the front row. My mum and that was just sort of right up just behind him as well. And like, it's a great day just for everybody in general, just because we ended up winning. Lifting the trophy and that and doing everything that you had to do. Do you know what I mean? It was good.
What's wee pitch like? Because I went to school with him. I went to primary school with him. What's he like? Because he's class at football. I think he's quality at football.
Just everything you would want in a midfielder, I think. He's fit. He's probably one of the fittest boys I've ever met. Keeps the ball very well. Whether he's controlling the ball, whether he's passing the ball, whether he's dribbling with the ball, he keeps the ball very well. But that season, probably leading into the next season, was where he found out that how good he was at driving into the box and actually finishing. And he still does it now. You know, still does that finish now. Seems to be late in the box. Somebody's tackling him for the left. Somebody's tackling him for the right. Somebody's elbowing him in for the fucking middle, and he still taps it in. Still manages to find a way to put it in the net. But he was very, very good for us that year.
It's just a shame he had that bad injury as well towards the start of the season. Last season, sorry.
He's a workhorse, like, and he's a player you definitely want in your team.
It's like, see when he scored the first goal, I was like, come on.
I know.
It's like, I went to Pomfrey Primary with him, and obviously he was the best player in the school. He just could skin folk for fun, pass, shoot, everything.
But he was doing that at championship level too. Doing that with us, you know what I mean? It was exactly the same with us still. It was still exactly the same.
Looks like a lad who's just playing football with his pals.
That's what he's like as well, isn't he? He's quiet. It's a nice guy to talk to and stuff like that, but he's dead quiet. It's kind of like a model professional type person. Like, he just does everything that he needs to do, and then gets on with his day. Basically, when he plays football, he's the best. You know what I mean? It's so good.
Something I always wanted to ken because I knew him, like, played on him at primary school and that, and obviously signs for local side. You
wouldn't have a bad word to say about Pitts. I don't think anyone. There wouldn't be anyone in the world that would.
No.
I think the response you just gave is pretty much standard to everybody that you ask.
Aye, it's true though. You didn't need to make things up about Pitts. You just tell the truth. There might be some people where you're like, "What do you think of him?" You're like, "Oh, I really liked him. He was good." But for Pitts, you just tell the truth because he was that nice. He was a nice guy. He was just so good at football. He was fit. It was just. You always, when you seen his name on the team sheet or he was available, you knew he'd play.
No, definitely. Paul, again, you've got a whole host of stuff you want to ask.
I'll be honest with you, I actually turned into Paul Slane, literally, like, my questions. So you've kind of touched on it, right? But in training, was there any drills that you saw in the plan or you knew you were going to do that you loved? You were like, I'm doing that today and I cannot wait for it. So any training drills?
Nah, nothing. Not necessarily as the actual drills itself. Do you know what's maybe the way to put it is, like, as a goalkeeper, you do more in training than you do in a game. But that's not to be like, I didn't mean that like, oh my God, I shouldn't do less in training. That's not what I mean at all. Like, you prepare yourself for games by doing a lot more. Like a boxer does 15 rounds instead of 12. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's like. Whereas with players, outfield players, you train for 90 minutes, you play for 90 minutes. So you're kind of running about the same both times. Obviously, the intensity is different, blah, blah, blah. But for goalkeepers, you're like powerful for 5 minutes and then you get a wee drink and then you're straight back in again. Whereas in a game, I would maybe only have to come and take one cross. I would take 12 in training. Do you know what I mean? So as far as that, I just enjoy training just in general. Like, if you were to pick a drill, it's like the goalie walls and stuff like that you do is just fun, but it's such a good drill to do as well. So obviously just getting the 2 goals 18 yards apart, 2 goalies in each goal, and you just basically hammer the ball to each other. You just lash it. You know what I mean? Just find a gap and just lash it. And if you miss the target, you need to run round the other goal. And it's just it's one of the fun drills today. But as far as like footwork and stuff like that, like, I enjoy it. I really enjoy it all. But there's no one that I would specifically say, like, I love that. I really like doing that. I want to do that again.
Right. No worries, man. Okay, so a bit of technical question. I'll need to try and word it, like, think how to word it without one being too complicated and pointless.
I'll just say it.
Goalkeepers of the past or modern day goalkeepers. So, for example, sweeper keeper is a modern thing. Do you prefer the modern goalkeeper to the old-fashioned stodge, keep the ball out the net?
If I had to pick myself, I'm saying modern day goalkeepers. And the reason I say that is like you need to be more rounded to be a modern day goalie rather than in the past. Like Ederson's the best example. You'd always use Ederson. That guy's composure level is incredible. Like he makes one mistake, it's a goal. But he still stands with the ball at his feet and just looks about, just pass. Somebody's pressing him for that side. We'll worry about you in a minute once you get closer. And then he pops it in the midfield. Or he's got a goal kick and everyone's all pushed up the pitch, everyone's all pressing, and he pings the ball 75 yards and Aguero goes and takes a touch, puts it in the net. And you're like, wow. So I would say modern day goalkeepers are more effective. But sweeper keepers, if I was to pick a goalkeeper for a sweeper keeper, I'd say Peter Schmeichel. I mean, see when you watch him back when he's at Man U, I can't remember what it was I even watched. It must have been on Sky or something. I don't care. Something about him anyway.
Years or something.
Whatever it was. No, it was like based on him though. I can't remember what the programme was called.
Was that when they did individual profiles on them?
Aye. So they've done the profile of him, and what he said in his profile was like basically that he loves being 6-7 yards off his line. So anyone plays a through ball, he's like, boom, here I go. I'm straight out to get it. Whereas that's why, like Peter Beardsley done him, tipped him. Remember that's how because he got caught so far off his line, and he's the type of person I would say that was a good sweeper keeper, and being really aggressive at coming out. But then Alisson at Liverpool right now is exactly the same. I feel he's really good at coming out with the ball, but he's not necessarily good with the ball at his feet. So it's like trying to find the perfect mixture, the perfect balance there. Or I would say modern day now because goalies are more important now, I would say.
They're part of the actual team now. It's like Ederson, you put him at like CDM and he'd be fine. I think he'd be fine now.
I mean, outfielders will argue with you there and probably say, no, they're just stupid goalies, but a player like Ederson, I feel like I feel like sometimes, see when I watch the other players and they make it look so easy. By the way, our captain at Kelty's like that right now. See the way that he plays, and Tidser, isn't it? Michael Tidser. The way that he plays, his touches, everything, his awareness, he makes the game look so easy. And see, sometimes you see him like 10 yards further up than me, and I'm like, I could do that. I could receive the ball and pass it. I could definitely not do that. Not as well as he does, anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Because you've got some balls in that team too.
There's loads, everybody is. But as far as goalkeepers now are slightly more effective, starting for the back, playing it up, stuff like that. Maybe it's always coming back to the goalie to start again. It's not a case of like you used to be able to pick the ball up even, so you can pick it up and kick it away again. It's not a case of doing that anymore. You need to start for the back. You need to be good with your feet. You need to try and communicate as best as you can as well. And so, as far as the question, it's definitely modern day goalies for me. Like,
I kind of thought that, to be honest, when it was a wee bit of trick.
See just intercept there. Well, just a second. Something just popped into my head. DJ, you were in goals when who was the keeper? Oxley.
Yes.
Did you take a ribbon for that? Because I
still to this day, when that gets put on that SPFL Twitter
page,
it gets retweeted and I get tagged.
But I report it every time.
Good show. I'm going to start reporting that.
I can.
It's just do you know what? In my head.
Honestly, see when that happened, like that for me was the biggest learning curve ever for me. Like obviously, the whole so what happened was 17 minutes into his debut, and basically all he's done is just share the ball away. He's literally just kicked the ball away. Do you know what I mean? He's the only reason that it's came about is because he's hit it so straight, and it's ended up in the net. That's why it's good, because he'd done it at Livy 3 or 4 times when we played Hibs and we drew 1-1. Should we do 1-1? Sure, we drew 1-1. But we played them whenever it was. So anyway, he just kept kicking it, and obviously I'm not going to be naive enough to stand in the edge of my box. So obviously I'm pulling back in, bouncing, and I'm just catching it. The Hibs fans are getting on at him. The Hibs players are getting on at him, and I can see the manager getting on at him as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's like good for him, right? Fair enough. Like listen,
I didn't rate him at Hibs.
Do you
personally.
know what I actually think? My personal opinion of the whole thing, and I've never ever said it to anyone before, or I've certainly never said it on record before. His interview after the game, I think, is the most disrespectful part of it all, in my opinion. He comes in and what he basically said was like, I didn't care for the fact that I've just scored into that goal. Like, I've scored and I'm the best. And it was like, this disrespectful. See, if I scored a goal...
Goalkeepers have got a goalkeepers union, eh?
Just in general, it's just a respect thing. Do you know what I mean? I actually played all right in that game. You can't say that I played well because I've conceded a goal by the goalkeeper. Mistake, but I actually done all right in the game. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As for how it came about, he's just shelled it up. But again, it's the same. I've said the two centre-halves are coming and covering, and one of them would probably headed it, but I shouted. So I shouted keepers, and it's just the way that it bounces off the surface. It just took me by surprise, basically. Just goes way up in the air rather than goes like skidding towards me. And there's nothing else to it, though, in my opinion. He scores... It was on Sky Sports for about 4 weeks afterwards, and every single time I seen it,
always is
I went home. I even said that to my mum. I was like, "Mum, I'll never play football again after this." Mum, it's the first thing my mum says to me, like, "Look, don't be stupid. Say in 3 weeks' time, everyone will forget about it. You'll be back to being the best goal at Livingston again, blah, blah, blah." And in 3 weeks' time, I'm still turning Sky Sports News on. They're like, "Look at this goal for Oxley." I'm like, for fuck's sake. Like,
I remember that interview. I didn't mean it like total. It wasn't a total like disrespect. I just wondered.
No, not at all.
You seen it, right? Because I remember the interview and I thought, you're a bit of a dick, ain't you? Like, I thought, don't get me wrong, I rip Livy fans about it, right? I'm a Hibs fan, I'm allowed to. But
of course.
His interview was terrible after the game. I thought, what you doing? Like, I seen Ben Foster done it, and he was just like, I never meant that. Like, didn't even want to talk about it, eh?
Aye, and if you'd have seen the game after, or the next game that they played against us,
he kept doing it.
Where he kept doing it. He'd done it 4 times. I remember him doing it the 4 times in the game. That's how I know that it could be the 4. And the first time, everyone's like, "Oh, hey, he's got it," blah, blah, blah. Like that, kind of, it's funny. The second time, they're all like that. Like, you could hear like murmurs in the background, kind of like, "Oh, he's tried it again. He's not quite got there." The third time, everyone's like, "What you doing?"
Raging.
And then the fourth time, but then the fourth time, you're then turning around. Every single player on the pitch is turning around the centre. I'm like, "Mate, what are you doing?
What are you doing?" You seen Paul Hamler and Fontaine turn and go,
aye. No, the whole team.
We're a passing team. We didn't do that.
Aye. And if that, do you know what? It doesn't necessarily define my career because nobody really brings it up as such. Because I've got quite a few good accolades rather than it being a bad one. But right now, or in my opinion, I think that's going to be the only thing that everybody will know him for. And that's, do you know what I mean?
Oxley.
That's all I would say on that. It's not to be disrespectful because I actually quite rated the guy as far as he's played for my boyhood team. Do you know what I mean? So anybody that's managed to play for Hibs for me, I think's fair enough, fair play. But it was just a disrespect.
I personally did not like that interview. I do remember it and just like hearing about goalkeepers unions, it's all back each other, it's all one.
Exactly.
And as the one, he was out the door quickly enough after that season anyway.
He was.
But back to your question, Paul, sorry for jumping in.
No worries, man. No worries. I've got 3 more I really want to ask. And one potentially we might bring at the end, which isn't football related, but anyway.
Right.
So,
if you were to go into the mind of any goalkeeper, past or present, who would it be and why?
Casillas. It's just an absolute hero of mine. Iker Casillas is he's just a man. As far as I can remember back to the time that he left Real Madrid, even just the whole entire time that he was there, every save he made, just like the agility that the guys got. Honestly, like never forget the 2 that come across the goal. The cutbacks. The one against Sevilla, and the guy's literally 6 yards for the goal just to tap it in. He smashes it along the ground because he gets there, and you're actually like you're superhuman, mate. What are you doing? Like, how have you managed to save that? But he then goes. I'm sure it was like a couple of weeks later, maybe a couple of months later. The ball gets whipped for the right hand side over to the left. The guy's got a free hit at that 6 yards of the 4, 5, 6 yards of the goal, and he gets there again, hits the post. Saves it, hits the post, and it goes out. And that whole time, I'm just like, man, that guy's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
So if I had to be inside him and just see, like, what his training regime would be like, and just what his mentality was like as well. See how he would go about his daily business and stuff like that as well. Just how he thought about goalkeeping in general.
Yeah, nice one, man. I asked myself the same question, right? Because when I was younger, when I actually did play football, I wanted to be a goalkeeper.
Right.
It was all right. It was not bad. But I was thinking, what would it be like to be inside the mind of Oliver Kahn? Just having a full-time heavy metal concert.
He's like the monk. Isn't he? He's like the monk.
Oh, absolute Raj.
Isn't he? He was mental. That would have been,
Still a world-class keeper.
Just really, really angry.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, man. And so, in terms of your development as a goalkeeper and maybe even to get deep as a person, who's the best coach or manager for your personal development that you've had?
Oh, that's a very good question, that. Do you know what? You can maybe name like 3 or 4 that in different ways.
Bit of a team effort.
Well, I mean, no at the same time, but like, do you know what? Like, so see, back for the very start, when I was under 16s, there was I'll not name, I don't want to name names because it's a negative thing, right? But the coach at the time says to me, we played a reserve cup final, we got beat 4-1. I was terrible. I know I was terrible, but I was only 14 at the time playing the reserves. Like, my God, these guys were massive. Anyway, he says to me after that game, you'll never make it as a goalie. You'll never ever play football. You're not going to be professional, blah, blah, blah. And one of the boys in the changing room, which is why I'm not going to name names, he basically wrecked the joint. He stood up for me the whole time and says, you've got absolutely no right to say things like that to him. That's an absolute disgrace. He just said that. He says, you better leave the changing room right now before I crack up. And the coach actually shit himself and left the changing room. So the coach was telling me I can't make it. That's me in the back of my, no right at the time, but 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm like, I will make it now that he said that. But also 2, that somebody's got to stand up for me and believe in me, even if he didn't mean to do what he done, he still did. Do you know what I mean? And because he done that at that time, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to make it now. So they two, for a very, very young age, in a negative point of view, where they didn't believe in me, so I'm then going to prove them wrong. But as far as personal development, Brian Welsh, who was the head of youth for that under that 11 that I named earlier,
did he play for Hibs?
Dundee United. Did he play for Hibs? Maybe he did play for Hibs actually.
I think it might have been
definitely Dundee United. I remember him at Dundee United. That was. But anyway, he's out over in America now. He's got his own like soccer academy and stuff like that. And honestly, he's out of this world when it comes to coaching. Out of this world. It just, everything that we used to do was so meticulous, and he didn't even realise he was that meticulous. I don't think. He used to go out in the afternoons, so they'd have like little ankle socks, just like normal white ankle socks, just ones that go over your ankle, and on your weak foot, he would have a full football sock right up to the knee. So he made sure that it was right up to the knee the whole time, and you could only use your left foot or whatever your weak foot was. In training, the whole entire training session was an absolute disaster. We were all pissing ourselves laughing because we were all pish. And for some reason, within about 4 weeks of doing that, see the training session, it just flowed. It was, and then see like
I love that.
3 and 4 weeks later though as well, they'd be going into games. And boys are pinging balls with their left foot and right foot, and you're like, where did that come from? And it all comes down to that. And he used to laugh about it as well. Like, he used to slaughter everybody. He used to join in training sometimes too and only use his right foot. He was left footed. Only use his right foot in training, and it was a disaster. And everyone's falling out of the place, and we're all laughing. But 2 or 3 months later on, people are scoring with their left foot, and people are wrapping balls in. Oh, it's amazing. So definitely Welshie. And he's one of them as well. Like I keep in touch a lot. Like with his son Daniel was obviously part of it. I messaged him not long ago, actually, believe it or not. Just asking how everything's getting on and all that. He's going to have a baby and that soon. So it's just keeping in touch with it. And they play like summer football and that over there and stuff like that as well. He's messaged me a couple of times to come over and play, and just a great guy, just in general. Just what a man he was. Honestly, it's unbelievable. Just everything that he used to do as a person. I'd need to say Richie Buck. I know he never obviously went doing very well with fans and stuff like that as a manager, but he gave him a debut. He believed in me from the very start as well. So I definitely need to see him. He's definitely influenced me. But then after that, it's just kind of managers that know how to handle you after that. So that goes, so any sort of man management, just like, I'm probably one of them that needs an arm around the shoulder rather than shouted at. Because if you shout at me, I bite back a wee bit.
You went defensive.
I didn't get really defensive, but I just get defensive. And if somebody just puts their arm over my shoulder and says to me, like, look, you're playing shite, I would turn around and I'd be like, what? But then, as long as you've got your arm, do you know what I mean? As long as they've got their arm on my shoulder, so you're playing shite, but come on, you're better than that. I'd go to the centre half and I'd be like, no, he's right. Like, I'm ready to go now. I need, do you know what I mean? I maybe just needed that. So you get managers that just love to shout and scream, and they shout at every single player. But then you do get the other managers, and I would probably say John McGlynn would be the best out of them all. Was the one person that used to just say to me, like, come on, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? That first half, you're kicking, you kick out the pitch, like, take it a yard in and keep it in the pitch sort of thing. You're just like, no, you're right. Like, he's motivated me enough to, right, I need to do this for him now. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's only maybe like 3 or 4 that I would be able to say that like genuinely influenced. Welshie definitely one, but the coach at the start, I don't know what to say his name because it's a negative thing to say.
Understandable, mate.
Basically, didn't like him to be perfectly honest.
The boy that's unique.
Exactly. You'd know him as well. That's the thing. I'll say to him once it stops recording. You can know it is, but I'm not. I can't say it.
That's sound, man. That's sound.
Nah, it's cool, mate.
Completely sound, man.
Nah, I like that answer, man. That's good, mate. Okay, so short and sweet. What's your favourite ever kit you've ever worn for any club that you've played for?
Kit.
This can even include Muriston, right up to the present date, Kelty.
I actually quite like the pink one that we've got now at Kelty, to be honest. Pink was always my. Do you know what was the biggest things for me? Like, I could probably go through the best and the worst, and they would have probably all been Liffey kits.
Aye.
Remember playing Dundee, the first penalty that I ever saved? I had black socks on, black shorts, and then the white top with the red on it. Do you remember that? In fact, if you Google it, you would see the photo, and it is terrible.
Yeah. Is that the night kits?
Aye, the night ones. Aye. So it was supposed to be
prints for the shop.
It was supposed to be red socks, red shorts, and then the top. But he shrunk the shorts and he shrunk the socks. So I've obviously went to pull them on.
Is that Danny?
No, it wouldn't have been Danny. I think it must have been Cheb. Because that was
Cheb,
later on.
Must have been Cheb.
But honestly, I pulled them up and he came back in. And he was like, you're not wearing that. And I went, good idea, maybe I don't know this.
That's a male model, mate.
So I ended up with the black, and the white, which doesn't look ideal, but it's like an iconic moment. It was my first penalty save ever. And it was against Dundee.
Against him, exactly.
Peter McDonald as well. And do you know what I mean? It just, everything on that day was really, really good. But except for my celebration afterwards, if you watch the highlights, it's terrible. But
was that the game that Griff scored?
1-2-1.
Or 2-1, that's not the game I'm thinking. I'm thinking of the game we won 4-2 at home.
Oh no, that was later on. No, that was the second. That was later on in the season.
Lee Griffiths.
But the first game,
fucking stormer.
So they were 1-0 up, and I saved the penalty. And from the penalty, I kicked it up the left. I remember the right hand side. Sorry, crossed that goal, went 1-1, and then we scored like 89th minute or something. I nearly ended up the crowd. And after the game, I can't remember who even scored the goals, you know that. But after the game, everyone was chanting my name rather than chanting anybody else's name. And all my Facebook posts and all that are all like, you're an absolute legend, take a bow, you're up there with Hassan Cashflow, you're
you know,
do you know what I mean? Like, you need to be knighted and all that. And I'm just like, I was loving it. I lapped it right up, to be fair. It was really good. So as far as the worst kit, it was that day, but it was the best day. The best kit, I really like the pink. We've got a pink kit and a yellow kit right now for Kelty, and I really like the both of them. So I'd probably say them actually.
Decent, mate. Decent. You never know; these kits might appear in retro sports shops.
Hopefully, no.
But but my final question, and again, it's I know you through college. I've seen you, of course, out and about in Livingston, but the hot dogs at Club Earth, waiting in the queue, these kind of things, these kind of moments. Live long in the memory, right? But I won't go too deep into that because, of course, you're still a professional footballer. I'm not going to fucking go into that. But anyway.
No, I would be quite happy to admit that was my favourite place on a Saturday night.
Not from there, just the hot dog queue. Right.
The hot dog queue. You used to get a hot dog before you went in. And that kind of like settled your belly a wee bit. and then once you're leaving, you're like, well, just got a wee quick hot dog when you leave as well. I used to do that. And if you hang
about late enough, got the fucking McDonald's at 5 o'clock for a breakfast.
Well, do you know what? I've done it a few times, right? So I used to do it all the time. So I used to take money out for the night. It doesn't matter how much it was. Even it's like 50 quid, 60 quid, whatever it was. I'd have 2 different compartments in my wallet. The left side of the compartment's for a drink, the right was for the taxi, right? And I couldn't, honestly, it's countless amount of times near the end of the night when I've looked and went, there's no money in the money, but there is a taxi there. Right, I'll just take the tenner out, but I'll go get more or whatever. And take the tenner out, you spend the tenner, and then when you get outside to go on the taxi, you go, oh, shit, I need to walk. Stick that in, and by the time you get out for Club Earth and walked up the hill, McDonald's is open. You're nipping out of McDonald's, you're like, well, I might as well take a McDonald's up the road with me. So I've done that so many times.
Definitely. A lot of your mates at the time for the football, you know, like Matty, Bondi and all that, they were all glass collectors and bar staff and everything. The odd occasion I used to get left up to McDonald's with him. But my main creation in the back of that, so thanks for telling us that, because that was Dino, man. It's a highlight of the podcast, in my opinion, right? But anyway, your half cut, anywhere in the world, you could be in China with Andy McNeil on a night out, right? I don't think we can drinks, by the way. You're absolutely Hank Marvin. You're wanting a scran. You click your fingers. What establishment lands right in front of you from anywhere in the world? And also from that place, what would be your order?
Oh, nice. Wow. But you can edit out this pause, right, when I think about it.
Aye, anyway.
Because that's a good. Nah, do you know what it would be? So, if I was to pick an establishment right now, it'd have to be Nando's for me because it's very simple and it's just chicken and a wrap. But see, I just love the chili jam and the chicken wrap. Oh my god, amazing!
It's to die for.
Oh, so good. But for it to then be a wrap, I would say Mexican food. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to be anywhere in the world half cut and need to eat something, I would say the middle of Cancun. And a Nando's just drops down on the beach. Where it's all inclusive on one side and there's a Nando's the other side. That's perfect for me. That is like dream. I would stay there forever. Because I just feel like, Mexican food. Mexican food for me is definitely the one. I just like everything that's Mexican's just like fajitas but then you look at like all the silly things like tacos and stuff like that. I eat it all the time. Love Mexican food.
Have you tried Don Polo in Ladywell?
Don Paul's amazing. I've been there as well.
Unpopular opinion, but I actually prefer that now to Nando's.
Oh, that is. That's an unpopular one. That, but I like it. I do like it. I must admit. Probably because we've not got one. I'm through in Burnt Island, so I've not got one through here. So maybe.
No.
Well, that's a good point. Take on how you finding Fife, like living over in Fife instead of West Lothian, and.
I'll probably move back, to be honest. I like it. There's nothing bad about it. It's exactly the same as anywhere else you want to stay. But see, like a Saturday or that, somebody will text me and say, like, even if it's just to come round or go to the house, it's not necessarily for drinks or that. I didn't drink that much, but it's always somebody for Livingston. So most Saturdays, I've either got my wee one, or I'm at my mum's with my wee one, or I'm through in Livingston with one of my mates. So. I've not got. The only reason I actually came through here was for my wee girl. So, and the reason that I stayed was genuinely because my wee girl was just up the road. But now it's kind of like half an hour to travel between Livingston and here. So, I mean, I'd be as well just staying in Livingston with all my pals, seeing everyone. And when I need to come over and see my wee girl, just leave extra 15 minutes later, and then I'm got the travelling time that I need to go and see her. Do you know what I
mean? Exactly, man.
So you end up leaving. You done, Paul? So you end up leaving. Livy,
no.
DJ.
No.
I think you'll get this question because it's to do with your story earlier on, but
right.
We'll get to that.
You end up leaving. Like Liam Kelly comes into Livy. Where's your head at? You know, you go. You've been number one. and Liam Kelly comes in for Rangers. How does that go about? And you end up going to Bo'ness on loan. How is like when you're playing in the Championship? You're going to is Bo'ness a junior team?
Bo'ness a junior team at the time, man. But I mean, again, looking back on it, so that was for the very, very start of the season. Bo'ness had phoned me. Al McGonigal, his name was, who was the manager at the time, had phoned me and says, "Look, there's a place here for you to come and play junior football." And I'm, to not even that, like I'm on the phone, I'm like, like I won't play the year last year at Livingston. I've just signed a 3-year deal when you want me to come and play at Bo'ness. Mm-hmm. I was like, nah, I don't want to play there. Like, even if I'm second choice at Livingston, I still want to be here. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that was right at the very start. And it was probably within a couple of weeks then that Liam came in. Who, by the way, an absolutely brilliant keeper. Just would never, honestly, the ability that guy's got is incredible. And you've seen it right from the very start when he was right in at Livingston at such a young age. But to know then that he was obviously going to play, it was kind of like, right, get yourself out and play. You never know what could happen here. You didn't
watching, exactly.
It's one of them. Oh, let's get. Oh, there you go. It's one of them where you're just like, at any point, playing is a lot better than sitting in the stand and watching other people play. So I was like, just go. So it was between me and my grandpa at the time. Obviously, my gramps he's been there right from the very start. He's always been like a representative, but I've always asked his opinion. Mm-hmm. Now, that can be anything between... I had an argument with one of the players at the weekend, Gramps. Did I go in on Monday morning and apologise, or did I go in on Monday morning and just brush it off? Like, well, what was it about? Like, so he would go into the finer details there. What was it about? Who done it? Who did you like the guy? Do you speak to him often? Do you ask for advice? Do you blah, 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 everything, just all. And he would then say, right, once I've got all that collection together, then he would tell me what he felt. And every single decision that he's made, or he says to me, I think you should do this, I've done it. Everyone. So once would eventually, every single time he's said something, and it's basically the way my careers went. And it's worked out well. In my opinion, it's worked out well for me. So, but we took the pros and the cons of basically playing junior football, but also playing football, basically. Just getting game time and actually playing. And do you know what probably was good was the fact that Livingston kind of made a bit of a deal about it as well and started putting it on their website, and they put it in the paper and stuff like that as well. And everyone, quite a lot of the players, the fans, were at the games. Quite a lot of them had been at the Bo'ness games as well. So even that, from my point of view, was a good thing.
Followed you about.
I was there for 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the full 5 weeks, obviously still training at Livingston and stuff like that. Probably the fittest I've ever been, because I got to a point where I was like, I basically need to step up again. I need to do more. You know what I mean? Like, you feel like you're working hard, but if you're working hard and you're not on the team, well, you need to work harder. Simple as that. I was in the gym every day with Cheb. Every single day was just trying to get better, like just everything. And I think I got like 4 out of 5 weeks was man of the match. And that was good because you get a bottle of vodka after the man of the match.
That's
four bottles of vodka in a month. Brilliant. No, yes, well, because junior football, that's it. You get a wee bottle of vodka and you're finished, as long as you were good. After the 5th week, it was. Do you know it was one of them as well though? Like, that was the transfer window was basically the way up. So when I was there, the transfer window had a month left. So I've just signed on loan, and I thought to myself, I'm going to be here till January. I might as well just like try my hardest, get up, day as absolute best as you can. And then I remember we were off on the Wednesday, and that was transfer deadline day. And I got the phone call, and I think it was actually David Martindale that phoned me and said that was on transfer deadline day at like 11 o'clock in the morning or something. Phoned me and was like, look, Hamilton have offered you a 2-year deal. And even then, when I'm on the phone and that way, like, I'm like, this is a mistake. I'm like, nah, I don't believe this. But at the time, you kind of, like, you need to be respectful. But at the same time, I was like, there's absolutely no way I'm going to Hamilton. It's not happening. But on the phone, I'm like, aye, Davey, aye, I'll speak to him. Aye, no problem, aye. And then just hang up the phone. And my ex-fiancée at the time, she was like, who was that? I was like, it was Davey Martindale. I think it was a joke because he was saying about got the Premiership. And he's like, Kelly says to me at the time, she's like punching me now. She's like, shut up, get back on the phone and find out what that's all about. And I'm like, it's just a joke. Like, they're just playing a prank because it's deadline day and I'm at Boness and blah, blah, blah. Like, didn't think anything of it. And about half an hour later, my agent phones me. And he's like, right, so Davy's obviously spoke to you, but now we need to go to Hamilton and get personal terms. And I'm like, on the phone, like, oh my God, no way. And I went, is this actually happening? Like, is this actually happening right now? And he's like, aye, you're going to Hamilton. Like, we need to go. We need to get up the road because it needs to be all done rapid. And I was like,
terms and everything.
I was like, can you not phone them and just like agree everything over the phone and stuff like that? And he said, well, aye, we can do that. Said, you've got your medical today. You need to hurry up. So this was at 12 o'clock. I stayed in the Finland at the time. I'm like, it's an hour to Hamilton. But my agent luckily stayed in the Finland as well. So obviously jumped in with him. Just everything just got done. It's a long process, a long day, like to get it all done. And that. But eventually, just everything just comes together. And that transfer deadline day ends up being the only day that I've been involved in transfer deadline day so far. But it was quite good. Like, it's good, a good buzz. You know what I mean?
What's the difference? What was the difference between Hamilton and Livingston? Was it Martin Cannon that was at Hamilton?
Martin Cannon was. So what had actually happened was obviously because I was on loan. Boness's goalkeeper was injured. Scott Christie, his name was. He was injured and he was out for 8 weeks. Now, the reason I went on loan was basically cover him. That was pretty much it. So then what happened then was my papers got released for Livingston on the 31st, and I didn't sign until the 14th of September. Now, obviously, I was in every single day with Hamilton, doing what I was doing with Hamilton and the first team, blah, blah, blah. But playing as a trialist for the junior team at Boness. So technically, I was a free agent at this point. And the whole 2 weeks, whole 3 weeks, maybe even, my mum, my grandpa, kind of like people like that are like, if you need to go into Hamilton, you need to impress. Like, you've got 3 weeks now that they could genuinely turn around and say to you, look, we don't want you. Whether it's a gentleman's agreement to whether the fact that you've agreed to it or the terms or it doesn't matter. Says they've got 3 weeks now where they could put you to the side. And I was like, no, you're right. So they 3 weeks were probably the hardest I've ever worked, ever. And luckily enough, obviously, they stuck to what they'd said and signed, and I ended up signing a 2-year deal up at Hamilton after that.
You moved to the Premiership, DJ. You're number 2 at Hamilton.
It was... but no. Like, I mean, there was 3 years. So when I first arrived, Robbie Thompson was in at the same time as me. Gary Woods was basically the second choice, but he was a first choice. And Remy Matthews was number 1. Now, Remy's at Crystal Palace now. He's doing well for himself. Gaz is Aberdeen, I think. Sure, he's Aberdeen. Gary Woods, Aberdeen. And they two were absolutely brilliant, by the way. Brilliant goalkeepers, brilliant people. Like, English accent up here goes a long way. Higgy's the same. Callum Higginbottom's exactly the same at Kelty now. Because his accent makes him funnier. And I that sounds really daft, but it is, sure. He can say a normal... So I would say something in a normal tone, and Higgy would say it in his tone, and we'd laugh at Higgy because of his accent. I don't care what anyone says. That's how it works. Anyway, they two were funny and really, really helpful as well to get on with and stuff like that. But because I was late in, I ended up then playing for the under-23s, which I didn't mind as long as I was kind of playing there. I was like, I don't care, I'll play. 23s or no, I was 25 at the time, so I was like, playing for the 23s is going to be good for me as long as I get exposure and playing. Yeah. And that 23s team would have rivaled the Livingston team. Like, they were very, very good. They should have won the league that year, but we played Celtic on the last game. We had to beat them, and we drew 0-0. And it's just one of them. Like, it's just no quite enough to win the league, basically. And Ross County ended up winning the league that year. But as far as setups and stuff like that, you can just tell it was a Premiership team. I think now, if I was to go back into Livingston now, I'd see a massive change. Probably like a lot more personnel. There's a lot more, just everything in general, like all the different supplements and proteins, and all the shakes and stuff like that. But then the gym that they use and everything, all the equipment that they've got, everything will just be so much better than what it was. But that's what it was like, my jump up to Hamilton. So going up to Hamilton, like, we had our own set of footballs. We had our own set of 15 footballs that once the goalie stopped training, we went in with the first team, we'd put the footballs away. See, when I was at Livingston, you were trying to sneak 3 or 4 balls. And that's it. Do you know what I mean? Like, the difference and the quality was like undeniably so much better. So they had like a little gym on the end of the stand that they could go to, so they didn't need to go elsewhere. We trained on the pitch. There was a pitch behind. There was a pitch at the other side. There's just everything you needed. You know what I mean? Absolutely everything.
All there for you to just utilise.
And then, I mean, like, as far as even going like down to body fat percentages and stuff like that, it sounds so simple and so stupid, but there was like, the players called it a fat club. They didn't call it a fat club. But if you were over 10% body fat, you were in the fat club in the morning doing press ups, blah blah blah. Everything that you wanted to do, everything that you needed. There was a fitness coach. There was a youth fitness coach. There was a physio. There was a youth physio. Do you know what I mean? There was just people. Danny Cunning's there, just like organising everything there. But there was also a lady that came in the afternoon that done all Danny's washing when he wanted to go home. There was, oh God, that's terrible. I can't remember her name. There was a lass in the morning. She used to come in, make us scrambled eggs. She used to cook beans for us. She used to put toast on for us. There was all the cereals and all that all lined up. As soon as one cereal was out, she was straight to the shops and buying another one in. Whatever you wanted in the morning. Whatever you wanted. You used to go in every morning. No need to worry about breakfast because you could get it when you get to the club. But then once you get up to the lunch hall after the first set, or if it's the only session, after your session, the lunch spread. Wow. Do you know what I mean? No, it's just so different. At Livingston, we used to get, I think it was Lee Robertson's dad used to come in and make us pasta. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful the fact he's came in and made us food and that. Aye, fair enough, but it's like sticky pasta and like tomato sauce. And you're like, oh, cheers for eating us this. I didn't really want that, but cheers. You go to Hamilton and it's like there's like wee chicken kebab things, but then all the salad at one side, the hot food this side, there's soup at the bottom. Depends what kind of soup you want, because there was 3 different types of soup. There was 4 chefs in the background all cooking whatever they had to. Even if you're late in and you're like that, like Robbie, the boy's name is. I'm really sorry, Robbie, but is there any chance you can maybe make us? And he's like, no problem, mate. Give me 20 minutes. Russell something up for you, come through, puts on a plate. There you go.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? It's just a wee bit more of a step up. And even then, and by the way, that's not to be disrespectful to Hamilton, but if you look at what other teams higher up must be, do you know what I mean? To be then that one step further up as well, it'd be interesting to see what it'd be like. It'd be really good.
And the likes of being at Hibs or Celtic, Hearts.
And even higher again, going down south.
Even them as well. Do you know, the biggest ones that I remember seeing, and I'll never forget it, was like Real Madrid bringing in like sleep pods for people. Where you used to go for like proper sleeps in the afternoon, but it used to be the right temperature and all that. Like, imagine that. You know what I mean? Like that would be. Imagine just like even having to phone up your missus and that. I need to go for a sleep, love. I'll see you at 3:30 because I need to go for a sleep. No, I'm sorry, but I've been told I need to do it. All right.
I think I'd personally feel like I was a ball hair away for artificial intelligence. Like I'd literally feel like a robot.
100%. Everything immediate. I think like, at that level, the top level, like they can't walk about. I can go out to the co-op, do you know what I mean? And nobody notices who I am. The fact there's Ronaldo's mobbed within 10 seconds and he needs to try and find the fire exit. So as far as being a robot, you pretty much are a robot, do you know what I mean? Until you retire and until you're in the background again, then you're a robot. That's the way it works, unfortunately.
It's a shame, but I suppose that's the life you lead if you get to that level.
Exactly. No, you're right.
So, did you go for there and go to Arbroath with some character of a manager and Dick Campbell? Absolute heat case.
But by the way, honestly, unbelievable man management. Unbelievable. Like his whole backroom staff, everybody that was there, you need to name them all because it's that good. Like Pink is his twin brother, sorry. The assistant manager, Ian Campbell. Rab Douglas was there with me as a goalie coach, and Youngie as well. Youngie was just another coach as well, and honestly, the four of them are they just bounce off each other. Do you know what I mean? It's just fun every single day in training. I can still tell you the players that are now top of the championship. I know why. I know why they're top of the championship. It's because of everything that they do. And I wouldn't say a bad word about any of them. Genuinely, not a bad word about any person at that club. Even down to the tea lady at half time. Julie used to see, like when I was on the bench and that, Julie used to make me a cup of tea at half time and stuff and know that I'd be in to get it. Do you know what I mean? Just so simple, but just so good. The whole club's amazing.
I like a home away from home kind of thing.
It was almost like that as well. I mean, see, when you get up there, you're welcomed by everybody. I went back up with Kelty at the start of the season even, and every single person was still like, "Oh my God, Deej, how are you? I've really missed you." And do you know what I mean? Like every single person wanted to see me again. It's amazing. It was honestly amazing. Never have a bad word to say about that club.
Seems like it's just like I could listen to Dick Campbell all day talk. Doesn't matter what he's talking about.
He's no choice. You need to listen to him as he talks anyway. No, his biggest thing is like his team talks and stuff before the game and stuff like that. They're amazing. Like I never forget at the very first team talk to going into a competitive game was against Montrose. We won the game 4-0, but League One, he's standing in the middle of the changing room. So he's obviously standing there and he's getting all this. He's got his hands up and he's kidding on his boxing and that, right? So now he's standing in the middle of the room by himself, shadow boxing, just kidding like wee punches and stuff like that. And we're all like, now a lot of the other boys had obviously been there with him for years, so they're all laughing already. And I've not got a clue what's coming up. And he goes, right, Pink. So to his twin brother, he goes, right, Pink, square goal, let's go. So he puts his hands back up again like that. So Pink walks over, Pink's standing next to him like that, right? Now Pink puts his hand up in the air and Dick looked at his hand and he slapped him with his other hand. So I'm now standing there, I'm like, it's about an hour until this game. What are we doing? Like, you know what I mean? Why are you boxing in the middle of the room? What is going on here? But after that, like, obviously, Pink just basically, he's just a laugh. He used to just slaughter the boys all the time. The boys used to slaughter him back. Like, just everything was so funny. But that day, he basically said then, for then onwards, we want you to enjoy the season. He thought that the players that he brought in would basically take them that extra step to go and win the league. And, I mean, he was right. It's exactly what happened.
So it's like Gavin Swankie in that there. Is it Gavin Swankie?
Aye, so Swanks. Bobby Lynn was honestly, he was an absolute magician that season.
Arbroath legend, isn't he?
Oh my God, what? By the way, what a guy. He actually
man.
messaged me. I think he messaged me yesterday. So I've now not been at the club for 18 months or whatever it is now, and I'm still like, do you know what I mean? You still get connections with guys like that, and you're like, what a top guy is. So Bobby was another one. Stephen Doris as well. He's actually just retired from football as well. So good luck to him if he sees this as well, because he's exactly the same. Great guy. He was injured when I arrived. He was injured, and he spoke so highly about the club. Just everything was there. When he finally got back on the pitch, he scored his goal. It was me that kicked it up to him. So even then, he's pointing back down at me, and like, I just loved my time I was there. Just everybody that was there, so good as well. Travelled with a few boys: Tam O'Brien, Jace Thompson, Greg Spence, the boys that I travelled with, Mikey McKenna, Davy Gold.
Mikey McKenna, something.
I didn't actually want to miss anybody out, but I think that's everyone. I think there was 7 years, and Mikey. That was like a car school that we had. So Mikey McKenna used to bring a van, and the 7 years used to go in this van up to games. And honestly, you can imagine it. There's 7 guys in a bus, basically all taking the piss of each other, and it is absolutely brilliant. So good.
What was the difference? Like going for Premiership Hamilton, and you got to League One. It's part time. So, how does that all work? Because it's like 2 days a week training, isn't it?
The difference is just working, to be perfectly honest with you. At the time, I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. I met Dick Campbell in February, so obviously didn't sign till June. And that's exactly what I said to him. I was like, look, I'm dropping part-time. Right now, my only option is to drop part-time. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do for a job, and I've never worked a day in my life. Now, that sounds I don't know what the word is. What's the word? Like
Surreal.
Privileged or whatever it is. That like I've never had to actually work a full day. That was a thing with my uncle. My uncle Mark used to be like that as well. Say that to me all the time. You mean kind of full day if it bit you in the arse? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've worked really hard until you actually need to work. And then you realise how hard it is. So the transition for me was slightly harder, I think. Having to work properly to then go to training at night. And then pretty much exactly the same. Saturdays have always kind of been the same for me. Like I tend to have a long lie, didn't really eat much, and then I have my pre-match and I go to the game. Now, it's another addition to that is if I try and sleep in past 8 o'clock on Saturday, I've got Peppa Pig in one ear and I've got some other fancy teddy that she's got in her room, and she'll be hitting me like that. Daddy, get up. Do you know what I mean? It's just the transition for a 16-year-old when you've not got a care in the world, you just play football, to what it's like now, 14 years later, when I'm 30-year-old, is incredible. But it's a learning curve and it's good. It's a good thing to learn. Do you know what I mean? Like, she takes my wee girl as like she's just my absolute world. But on a Saturday morning, I used to just be like laser focused. Like nobody talk to me. It's all about the football today. Saturday's a football day. That's it. Done. See now, if I was to try that at my wee one, do you know what I mean? Like imagine me sitting on the couch and just go, like ready myself for this game, and she would just like.
Just
be something silly. It wouldn't even necessarily be that. It'd just be something like, Daddy, can you change my tablet to Peppa Pig? And I'd be like, excuse me, laser focus here.
She's just been shooting me off.
I think you want to Peppa Pig. I'm trying to learn about my game. I've just about to go and play Elgin City here. Nah, it doesn't work like that. You know, everybody that's got kids will know exactly what it's like. But so that takes the focus off the game, and I actually feel a lot more relaxed and chilled about it now, because I'm like, I worry about her until sort of 12:30, 1:15. Make sure she's right. Make sure she's got all of her food or whatever she needs, and then come 1:45 when I'm getting showered and changed. It's my battery. That's going into my battery. That's what it is. When I'm getting showered and changed, that's basically when it changes for me. That I start then looking at try to get slightly more into the game, and then once I drop her off, that's me. I'm ready to go.
In the car, straight to the game, and that's you.
Aye, so she's only 15 minutes for the ground, but that 15 minutes is kind of the time where I'm like, right, like who are we playing today? What are we coming up against? And what I used to do for 10 o'clock in the morning, basically, I now do for 1:45 instead of
3 o'clock.
Yeah, aye, you know what I mean.
It's just to close off your batteries dying, DJ. You've worked with one of my heroes growing up, Kevin Thomson. You've worked with Barry Ferguson, who's Scottish football legend. What's it been like going to Kelty and working with you two?
It's been, I mean, that move for me was, I actually had a Zoom call with Fergie, and the whole time staring at him like now I'm in the top corner of the Zoom call, but he's right in the middle of it, and I'm like, he's talking to me. I'm like, Barry Ferguson is talking to me. Like, he's got that presence about him, he's got that aura about him, and anyone's opinion of how he is as a person is exactly how he is as a person. He's just a winner. You know what I mean? He just wins. He just wants to win games. He wants to win training. And he can. See if you ask him to try and I think he's something really, really stupid. 2 flies running up the ball, he'd say to you, I bet you that one wins. Come on! And he'd start shouting and screaming at them. Do you know what I mean? No, that's that he was. He was such
pure winner.
Oh, just
I ken boys that used to play fives with him up at Bannatynes, and they said the exact same thing. Scottish Cup final every Wednesday night.
An absolute winner. Yeah. Is that a winner? He didn't really necessarily like. We had a setup, and of course we had a plan, with a tactic. But if we won, as long as we won the game, it was fine. Bored. But now, like the gaffer now is probably the complete opposite of that. No, yeah, obviously he's a winner. He's hungry. He's greedy. He wants us to win every game. But I mean, like the tactical precision, how we play now is incredible. I know what I'm going to do 3 passes before I get the ball. Do you know what I mean? It's that precise. It's
Tomo just total football.
Everyone's just football. Everyone. obviously you do, you're running in pre-season and that, but as far as training and stuff like that, it's always your like short sharp 2v2s, 3v3s, maybe 3v2s, running transition periods, you're going back and forward, blah blah blah. Everything is just football. And it'd
have been a hero of yours growing up, playing a captain in Hibs.
I mean that generation of players as well. Like what a bunch of players they were. Like I've had the privilege I've played against Gary O'Connor and obviously shook his hand in that. It's probably as far as I got with Gary O'Connor. But the likes of like Derek Riordan came in on trial at Liverpool with us. He was in my car. I made sure he was in my car school at that point. You know what I mean? I was like, he's an absolute legend. I'm like, we need to go up to Muriston training. I'm like, come on, Dick, show with me. Come on, like, come with me. And I used to just listen to all the stories and that. Kevin Thomson's another one. Played against Scott Brown. All these players that, again, when you're sitting in the stand watching, you're like, amazing players. You're absolutely in awe of them, every single one of them.
Brilliant. I'm not going to get out of here without ask one of my pals who's a massive Livy fan for a question or two. You've already said your sort of favourite moment was with Livy. What made you so good at the penalty saving? Now he's asked it specifically because he's like,
I don't know. I don't see it. It sounds really cliche, but I don't know how to answer it. I don't know how. I've just always good. I don't know. I didn't really. My philosophy right now. So I'm not even going to give anything away because it's no anything. I look at the way that a player stands, and I would say if I'm standing where he's standing, what way would I go? And that's all I do.
Put yourself in their head.
Aye,
that's brilliant.
So obviously, if you're standing a wee bit further round, like to the left, I'm thinking he's whipping that. Or if I'm standing and I'm looking, I'm like, if I'm standing where he's standing right now, I'm going to open my body. I'm going to play it down the side. I'm going to go to the goalie's left. Or if there's the ones, Liam Buchanan's really good at it, to be fair. But I saved one at the start of the season, exactly the same. He's running right down the middle of the ball, right down the line of the ball. But then at the last second, if he goes quicker, he wants to whip it. If he turns and opens his body, he goes to go to the left. So that's when it's a game of cat and mouse. I'm just like, I need to stand. I went, he's opened his body. I went dive to my left and I've saved that. I tipped around the post and I thought, like, you've done well there, well done, kind of thing. But as far as like, I've not got a philosophy, I've not got a mind game, anything like that. I just think, if I'm in his position, what would I do? And it's worked a lot because I've saved about 20 penalties. Don't know how much it is exactly, but I've saved a lot.
There's 7 in one season at Livy.
Aye.
7 in
that
one
was like
Livy.
3 in a row as well. 3 in a row, I remember that. They played saved one against
Hibs. Right?
Aye, Dylan McGee.
So, right, I knew you were going to save it. Right, so I knew your record. I went, I'm away for a pie. I ken he's going to save this. Like, how do you ken? I was like, we bat him a couple minutes. Tell me if he scored.
No.
Like,
same as there's a YouTube chat. If you type my name in on YouTube, I've seen it so many times. Everybody tags me in it and that. And it's Rafe Rovers. We won the game 4-0. And boy Louis Vaughan had a penalty in the last minute or something. And there's a wee boy in the background. So obviously sitting in the stand next to his dad, whoever it is that's taking the video, saved the penalty. And the wee boy went, I knew he was going to save that. He's the best in the league at saving penalties. And see, when I hear it now, I'm like that. Like, I like that people have acknowledged that's something that I can do that's a pro towards my career, basically.
Nice one, man. I'm actually glad you've mentioned that game because as a Livy fan, that's one of my favourite ever away trips.
Aye, same. I love that.
I don't know if you
love playing that.
Not just the ground, but down from the ground, there's a wee pub, and next door to that pub, there's a palm reader kind of place.
Right, okay.
The spiritualist kind of people. But the best thing is, there was literally about 80 boys outside, all geared up to the masses, Livy scarves, flags, everything, right? You get your palm read, and you pay a £5, but also with it, you get a cup of tea and a toastie. As you can imagine, we were all sozzled in the pub next door, and we went, we're starving, where can you go for food? And somebody told us, there's like a pub next door that reads your palms, but you get a free toastie. So we were
that's amazing.
That. So like 3 times that season, we were on Kirkcaldy, staying at that place, East Grand, sorted.
Ah, that's so good. I wouldn't have known that, to be fair. I know where the pub is, I know where you are, but I wouldn't have known that.
I don't know if it's still there, obviously with the lockdown.
That probably is, to be fair.
It's Sean Dennis's pub.
Oh.
There's a wee geeky factory at Sean Dennis's pub. I can't mind. I was on a podcast and somebody said to me it's Sean Dennis's pub. Getting the ex-Hibs player and Rafe player.
Yeah.
Somebody said he's got that pub. I can't mind who said to me. I can't mind who said to me. It's a weird thing that's popped into my head. Right, but I think, Paul, you got anything else?
I've got
DJ?
one more question. I don't know if you've got anything to round off, because I think this will probably round it off quite nicely. First, thanks for coming on the pod. It's been a class experience.
Aye, not a problem.
Hour and a bit.
Brilliant, Darren.
Almost 2 hours.
I know.
But last question there. On your Facebook story earlier on tonight, I noticed you'd shared something about, it looked like goalie gloves. I kind of briefly seen it. And it was DJ 10%, and it was something like laser NRG.
That was what?
Laser NRG. It was on your story on Facebook.
Your goalie. It'd be your goalie gloves.
Like, as if you're offering discount or something.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything you want to elaborate on that? Like,
do you know what? That's probably 4 years I've been with them now. So it's Premier Goalkeeper, they're called. So it's 4 years I've been with them now, and the whole entire time, the 2 guys, they're from Northern Ireland, and I've actually met up with them a few times as well, and they've been amazing. Like, just if I need a pair of gloves, sending me just even sketches of gloves. The gloves aren't even made yet. They've not even been looked into. And the first thing they're sort of saying to me is, what colours would you like? And it's just the back and forth that I've had with such a tight-knit group of goalkeeping, like, you'd say professionals, but what I mean by professionals is the ones that are outside that are basically creating gloves. And they've been amazing with me. And every single year they do the same thing when they're releasing stuff. They're like, look, we'll put discount codes live for you. Stick them on your story. Go and just you can put them away if anybody ever wants any of the gloves like that you're wearing. And they actually did tell me not that long ago, which is it's a good compliment, I suppose. But they looked to try and venture into Scotland, and they found me, which obviously I was happy. I'm happy with the gloves. They're a brilliant pair of gloves. So. And what they basically said after that was that you've done enough for us in Scotland and made enough sales for us in Scotland that we didn't need anyone else.
Oh,
and at that point, I was like, well, I mean, I must be doing something right. Especially if they're saying that they're making money or whatever it is that they do. But it's a lot of it's coming from Scotland. I was like, that's good. Happy days.
Nice one. Have you ambassador role there for when you eventually hang up the gloves, eh?
I've just thought of a couple of questions, right, very, very quickly. What's your favourite stadium to play at?
It's a wee bit controversial, my stadium. To be perfectly honest, I think you could guess. Tynecastle.
It's my favourite away day. Considering I'm wearing that right now. I love going to Tynecastle.
Well, I'd happily tell everyone that I'm a Hibs fan, and see when you get to Tynecastle, it's just one of the places. You just go, and the atmosphere is mad.
Electric.
I've went with Livingston isn't necessarily a big team to Hearts. Sorry, I would love to be on the pitch for a Hibs Hearts game and feel. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've been in the stand. I've obviously watched Hibs Hearts game. Of course, you always want to go to the games. They're brilliant. But to play, or not even play, if you're going to bench or something like that, just to feel what it's like on the pitch, that would be amazing. But Tynecastle, when you go, like, you take a goal kick and some guy's like spitting on your neck right behind the goal. Do you know what I mean? He's that close to you, but obviously it's not. I didn't mean he's intentionally spitting. I mean when he's shouting, he's spitting. Do you know what I mean? And they're just right there, and they try and be intimidating. You came at that sounds like I'm being biased, but you came at Hearts fans are like, do you know what I mean? They're all like that.
They're intense.
They are quite intense. Aye. Anybody, I know I used to coach a wee boy. He's 16 now. If I mention the word Hibs in a sentence to him, he'll hate me. I'm like, it's not that bad, surely. And he's like, no, don't talk. Please don't talk about Hibs to me. I was like, all right, mate, sorry. And that's what it's like when you get in the stadium as well. You get in the stadium, everyone's all shouting, you screaming, you're having all the banter. We got beat 5-1 that day. We got beat 5-1 that day. I was probably would have been there actually. I was so good there. And again, it sounds really stupid.
I wouldn't have been there.
sounds really, really stupid to say, but you go beat 5-1, how can you be good? But like even after the game, the manager came out and he was like, if it wasn't for the goal of the day, it could have been 10 and blah, blah, blah. And all the fans behind it were absolutely slaughtering me for the full 90 minutes. And then as soon as the game finished, every one of them was like, look, fair play. Like, you've done well. You've gave us the banter back. We now know you're a Hibs fan. We still do like you, but fair play.
That's class.
I walked away after that and I was like, aye, that's my favourite place ever.
I've heard a lot of players say that. So many players say that Tynecastle's like
it's good.
unreal.
It's a great stadium in that sense, but in terms of what they charge, nah. Extortionate. You two Edinburgh Cubs, man. And they two in Glasgow and all, man. Jesus Christ. Fucking Just Giving page for PC to go to an away day, man.
I took it Easterwood with me as well. Just remember that. I took Easterwood. And the best player you've played with? Played with or played against?
Played with. That's hard. There's a few. There's loads of different players that I've played that are all unbelievable. Probably for what he's done, I would say Griffiths. Like obviously I was with Graham Dorrans, I was with Robert Snodgrass, I was with players like that, James McPake, Dave Mackay, all these massive Livy players that have all went on and had unbelievable careers and into management stuff now. But I didn't really play with the players. Do you know what I mean? So I mean, I could point them all out and say like training players, stuff like every single one of them. I would say hiya to them all, and they'd all say hiya back, blah blah blah. But Griffiths was up there. He was. You could tell from a young age he was quite a big goal scorer because he just hit everything. But the 2 or 3 times that he did hit something and it went in, you were like, right, fair enough, mate. So I would say Griffiths. Closely followed by the likes of Scriggle, McNulty, these types of players as well that have all played at massively high levels and they're still, to this day, playing at really, really high levels and they've been amazing throughout their careers. Obviously, I follow them as well. Of course I do. Playing against is hard because like there's been a lot of different teams that we've played. I remember playing Real Sociedad in a friendly.
The boys came up.
Aye, the boy Sergio Canales played that game. Honestly, mate, what a player! He was incredible. But the centre half was the boy Illaramendi as well. He had an absolute laser of a left foot, by the way. Laser of a left foot. So, I mean, friendlies, they had about, if there's 100% possession, they had 99.8% possession that game. They only beat us 1-0. Do you know what I mean? So
you had a stormer then?
No, I never touched the ball. They just kept it. They just kept the ball side to side, passed it, played it back, zinged it on the top, played it back, pass. Eventually, they opened us up once to slip the ball in the net. And we're like, all right, son.
I can't remember, PG, but were you in goals against the Wolves?
I played Wolves as well. So that Wolves team as well. Oh my goodness gracious me!
Was that Kevin Doyle and?
Do you remember the left? What was the left back's name? Do you remember that left back? He was an absolute unit. No, it was a big mass. He was huge,
and he was at the corner flag.
Rapid. Whoever that is. He stood next to me at a corner, right? So he stood next to me at a corner, and he looked at me and he went, like, I'm supposed to block you for coming out here, so just didn't come off the line, will you? And I looked and I went, all right, mate. No, I just looking at him, I'm like, not a problem, big man. But he could have probably held me still anyway. Do you know what I mean? He just held me there anyway. But I was like, so he'd played that game. The boy Saka played that game. He ended up getting a move after that. Actually, he went to Crystal Palace after that. So Griffiths played against us that game. The boy Saka played. Ella Colby was the left back at the time. A lot of the players that played in these bigger gigs, we ended up playing quite a lot of big random friendlies.
Sunderland, Wolves, and
the Sunderland one I didn't play as well. But Sunderland one I didn't play in. I can't really remember why. I remember sitting in the stand watching it though. I don't know, but I didn't play in that. But as far as players to play against, I would have to say the boy Canales because he's honestly unbelievable. Out of this world. He was out of this world.
Yeah. Oh, that's class, DJ. Thanks for coming on, mate. Absolute
no
pleasure.
Problem.
Taking 2 hours of your time up.
No, it's fine. Nothing else to do with my time, honestly.
No, brilliant. And then you've got to add, Paul. Absolutely anything.
One tiny wee thing before when your battery dies, and
I know,
I think
5%. 5%, that's done.
But what's your plans for the future, both short term and long term?
Short term, still obviously keep playing, play as much as possible. Right now, it's obviously my main focus is Kelty, so that's exactly in my head. That's an amazing club to be at as well. So it's going places. I think everybody knows, definitely going, and it looks like it's going up the way, and it's only going up the way. So that's what we're planning. Long term, I definitely want to get into coaching. I've got a lot of coaching badges, as in youth coaching badges, stuff like that. When they make a decision yet whether it would be like a goalie coach or it'd be a coach or it'd be an assistant manager, whatever it is. I don't know. Like, I love playing Football Manager, if that counts. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you're a manager in games like that. I love the tactical side of playing FIFA. So stupid, but I mean, at the same time, you look at all these different things, and I've just always wanted to be involved in football. I think I've never had a career outside of football, and I didn't think I want to have a career outside of football. I just love to be in the game, like Bobby Geddes till it's 75, being a goalie coach at Dundee. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love that, but I don't know where it'll take me. But hopefully stay in the game for a very long time.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Darren.
No problem.
Just
an absolute pleasure.
Been good chatting
Cheers.
to you, man.
Cheers, mate.